Hello everyone, I'm Shinkyu Coté. I'm one of the Soto Zen teachers at the temple. I'm currently on sabbatical from the Dharma Council, and I'm in Omaha at the Nebraska Zen Center undergoing some priest training, which is a part of Soto Zen training that often happens after a Soto Zen priest has taken their vows, their home leaving vows. So I will be out in Omaha for probably 6 months, and I'll be back in Grand Rapids around the end of the year. So hopefully I'll be able to see everybody when I return to Michigan. I wanted to kind of talk about the training that I'm undergoing here at the temple. My training teacher, Daishin, says it's quite common that someone can be well versed in the Dharma itself and teaching the Dharma, but not as familiar with all the various forms that make up Soto Zen. And this was true of myself. I had some good training with the various forms at the Just Sit Zendo. It's my teacher Shuji's Zendo. But the amount of forms that they incorporate at a temple like this or at a monastery such as Green Gulch in California, which I also visited not too long ago. There's forms upon forms upon forms. And when I'm talking about forms, it's basically, you could just call it the way that we do things. Whenever you do anything at the temple, whether it be entering the zendo here, there are forms that need to be considered and enacted, embodied. For instance, when you step into the zendo, you step in with your left foot, unless you're the abbot, and then you're able to step in with your right foot. But everybody else has to step in with their left foot. So every time you step into the zendo, you have to stop and think, which foot am I stepping in with? And then when you leave the zendo, you exit stepping with your right foot. Unless you're the abbot, then you can step with your left foot. We bow, and when we enter the zendo, as we do at Grand Rapids. How we eat, there are particular forms. There are particular prayers that we say, chants, we call them prayers that we say as we eat, when we brush our teeth. There are forms for how we put our robes on, how we fold our robes, how we put them away, forms for how we move about the zendo, how we prepare ourselves for sitting down to sit in meditation, as we do at the Grand Rapids Temple. Bow to the mat, bow to the Sangha, things like this. I think I've talked about it before, but Soto Zen and a Soto Zen temple and monastery are set up in a very specific way to really express the outer aspect of the teaching. There's the inner aspect of seated meditation, quiet contemplation, watching thoughts and feelings and images and sensations and sounds all rising up in consciousness. They hold together for a little while like a cloud, and then they fall back away. This is what we watch in Zazen. It's a direct insight into the arising and impermanence of all being. The outer aspect of form, however, shows us interbeing, as Thich Nhat Hanh likes to call it, our interdependence with all things. So, for example, when we begin a service, there are a number of positions that people take up. I'm typically the doshi, which is something like an officiant. I do a lot of prostrations, bowing on the mat, offering incense, kind of leading everything, kind of. Then there's the jisha, who is my attendant. They will follow me and offer, they will carry the stick of incense that I will later offer at the altar. There's the timekeeper, who keeps track of all the times. It signals to everybody when it's time to sit down, when it's time to stand up and do walking meditation, when it's time to sit down for more meditation, when the service is going to begin. There's the doan, who is the kind of like they're sitting at basically a Japanese drum kit where there's all these different types of bells, and they help keep pace during chanting, but they also they let everybody know when to bow, when to stand up. So everyone's always kind of watching everybody else, listening to everybody else. If one person forgets something, or everybody knows, because the whole rhythm of the performance, the embodiment of the practice, which is the performance of the, I guess you'd call it the ceremony or the service. That's all. Every participant is important and included in every step of the way. For myself, for example, at the start of the service, there's the bell ringer will be outside hitting what we call the han, a wooden block, which announces, lets everybody in the whole temple know that Zazen is about to begin. When they do a certain pattern on it, everybody heads to the zendo and sits down. Then, however, there's a few of us, this is myself and the jisha, will be outside waiting for a particular, so at the end of this kind of routine of strikes or soundings on the han. The one that we're waiting for, the final one, is 3 loud knocks, like pow, pow, pow. And when we hear those, we know that we need to proceed to the entrance of the zendo. And as soon as we start walking, the bell ringer starts a different set of knocks on the han. They go pow, 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 pow. As soon as it gets to that spot where it stops, we should be at the door, or I should be at the door. The jisha will be behind me, and they give a medium hit, pow. And I step across the threshold into the zendo with my left foot, and then they give a very light knock, pop. I bow, and then just a moment later, they give a loud hit, like a pow. I should be at the mat in front of the altar and giving my first bow to the altar. This type of thing goes on throughout the entire ceremony, throughout the entire service. Almost every time I bow, there will be a particular bell ringing, letting people know what is happening and what they should be doing as well in the service. And this just goes on and on and on. So a lot of this is what I've been learning intensely for the first week, first month, into the second month, because there are a variety of different services that we do, depending on the day, depending on the circumstance, depending on the weekend. They're all somewhat variations on the same theme, but they're all a little bit different. So we have anything from a not quick, but a 10-minute service that we would do during the weekdays. And then we also have a full hour-long service, the full morning service that we do on sesshin on our retreats, which we've done a couple 3-day retreats, meditation intensives. Yeah. When you are first learning these forms, and I think that might be true for a lot of you at the temple as well, bowing to your seat, bowing to the Sangha, it feels kind of weird and you have to really think about it. But as time goes on, the boundary between yourself and the form lessens, and then you're able to not really have to think about it anymore. And then the form becomes second nature. And then when it becomes second nature, it almost becomes, I wouldn't say almost, it becomes a way of pure expression of your understanding of the Dharma. We bow to our seats. We are really ready to sit down to meditation. And then we turn around and we bow to the Sangha. Really, I offer this meditation period in the merit and that pure, clear mind that I will cultivate on the meditation cushion. I offer that to this entire Sangha, to the entire universe. Yes, an outward expression of the inward expression or experience of Zazen. Yeah, Zazen is not just something we do with the mind. So seated meditation, it's not something we do just with the mind. It's the our neighborhood is known for having an affinity for fireworks, so there's still some of the fireworks left over from the 4th of July. I thought they were all over with. I could go on some very interesting stories about natural occurrences as well that happen here. Some raccoons that like to have little parties on the roof at midnight. It's strange. We think that we are these little tiny essences that just kind of exist independently from the rest of our environment, from the rest of nature, from the rest of society, but we are intimately linked with all of creation. So when the neighbors are having a blast out there with their fireworks, or if the raccoons decide to climb up on the roof at midnight and eat I think they're eating acorns, or they're doing something up there, but all of a sudden they're part of our experience and we're part of their experience, even if they don't know it. And this is true of this is true of the Zazen that we have, and this is why we have these forms to acknowledge this interdependence, this interbeing that we experience with everything. Yeah. I've often thought, and especially while I've been here, as we're coming to the end of this talk, why are we learning all these forms? Why are we spending all this time in meditation? We could be out having our own party out there, not with the raccoons necessarily, but with our family or friends, or just doing, learn a hobby, jet skiing, whatever people do. Somebody here hang glides. But at the very least, this is I don't even know if we could call it proactive or non-proactive, but at the very least, what are we doing with this practice? Why are we doing this practice? I think when we look out at the world often, it can feel like we're in a room, trapped, trapped with people who are all screaming. Everybody's in a room, just, screaming. And this screaming can be anything, It's just the way that we unskillfully deal with our dukkha, with our suffering or dissatisfaction, with that sense that things just aren't quite right. It could be anything. A lot of times we'll beat ourselves up, or we'll eat too much, or we'll drink too much, or we'll stay up late watching YouTube. Not that I know anything about that. But all these, metaphorically, it's screaming. We're trying to do anything to feel better. Just to feel better. We don't want to feel so bad. And the one thing that we can do, and we're just screaming. That's our unskillful practice. We're screaming. Just make it stop. One thing we can do as meditation practitioners, as bodhisattvas, as you name it. So you can simply sit quietly in this room of people screaming and just not scream. Just sit patiently. As a Buddha, as Dogen says, back straight, facing the wall if you're a Soto Zen practitioner, facing the rest of the room, if not. And for a lot of people, they might not even have the idea that not screaming is an option. I know, looking at myself as a young man, I was doing some real screaming and metaphorical screaming, trying to deal with my suffering, causing a lot of havoc and chaos for myself and others along the way before I finally figured out you can just sit down and not yell. And you don't know, this is karma, this is skillful karma that we're sending out to the world, and you just don't know how that's going to affect other people. They might look at you, they might get mad, why aren't you screaming? Or they might look at you and say, that looks like a good idea. Maybe I shouldn't scream either. How do you do that? So these are my thoughts about practice and meditation that I've had out here. Lots of meditation, lots of practice. So hopefully this can be of use for you in some way. I'm sending my own karma that I've been cultivating here. I'm dedicating it to the Sangha, to anyone who's watching this now or in the future. So we just remember that we embody the forms of meditation. Every time we step through the door of the zendo, of the Dharma hall, of the temple, we're embodying it when we're bowing to our mat, when we're bowing to our neighbors. And every time that we decide just to quiet this, and just sit and not scream out into the world, but just to sit and observe our bodies and minds.